on this computer. Let's go back to here. Now you will notice that I got a message. Okay. Good. It's one of my other. Which brings me to, am I recording on this thing? All right, great. This is MED120, and this in theory is an on-ground class, but because of COVID and the restrictions, morning. Who else came in? No, I said good morning, everybody. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good morning, Ameni Mars. Welcome. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Welcome to the class. And today's class is day 1, term 5. There are 5 terms in a year at this campus. Monday, October 11th. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day, whatever that means. And MED120. This is medical terminology. And you can see it's lecture. And anytime you see something like this designation right here, that means it's an on-the-ground class. But like I stated a second ago, it's a hybrid for now, meaning to say that there will be 7 sessions out of the 10 weeks, 10 sessions. 7 sessions will be on this platform, Zoom, and 3 sessions will be on campus. Now, if you cannot make it to campus, for either logistic reasons or health safety reasons, please shoot me an email. I will put those exact dates on when you're expected to be on campus here in the announcements. Check here in these announcements because I not only put in helpful hints, study guides, a lot of random stuff. I also put every session that I have, even the on-campus ones, I try to record them on the Zoom platform, and I put it on a YouTube video, which will be in here in announcements. And a question was asked earlier about the textbook. So when you look at this, it has, and I hope you guys were able to look at some of these things and click on, and I'm sure you were able to click on announcements, because if you didn't, you wouldn't have been able to know about the Zoom session. So good on you. And another thing I also like putting in here is opportunities. All of us have heard that term, opportunity knocks. No, it doesn't. It's actually a very, very quiet, silent thing. That's why you should be aware. And I've also put in items in here that for either for specialized training or job opportunities as well. And I also like putting in like extra credit opportunities, but with a limited time offer. So check your announcements. And those of us who are already in the medical field know that communication is key. Knowing what's going on is key. So please look at the announcements. Now, if you're on a Mac, Safari isn't a nice thing for your medical language laboratory, which when you scroll down a little bit further, it's right here. Try, anything other than Safari. And of course, if you're on your PC, Internet Explorer is essentially garbage. So don't, try to use, of course, Chrome, not Safari, Firefox, and other, what are they? I don't want to use the word server. It's not the correct word, but use these other online platforms other than the typical default platform for both PC and Mac, because I don't know, for whatever reason, it's glitchy. Because right now I am on, what do you call that? Firefox, for the, so that in a moment, I'm going to show you access to this. And while I'm down here, take advantage of tutor.com, take advantage of this as well. Okay. This is a business number, so I will pick it up, but try to text me first, and of course, make sure you put the name, your name on there and your number. To this very day, this morning, I received emergency text from people from I don't know who they are. I always get Dr. Garais, it's me. I need help. Okay, who's me? So please put your full name, and of course, what course that you are referring to, and of course, a brief text. And I'll either text you back, email you back, and I I answer all correspondence within 24 hours. If I don't answer you, that means I didn't get it, or error. I missent it or something. And here's my email right here. That's my Stratford email. And again, I monitor that too during the course of the day. And the holidays are coming up and all of that, but I still monitor it. I still always look at stuff. Oh, I forgot to even tell you my name. My name is Dr. Garais, pronounced Garais. And just a little bit brief curriculum vitae. I am a former internist, internal medicine. I graduated overseas in my home country, the Philippines, of the University of Santo Tomas. And then I came here on Fifth Pathway to my lovely alma mater, Rutgers University, which formerly is called University of Medicine and Dentistry of New Jersey. And internal medicine, what else? Been teaching for 20 some odd years. I've held titles, Director of Education twice. I was a dean. Also, I was also a vice president of academics of a Fortune 500 educational company. You may have known them. They're called Career Education Corporation, also known as CEC. You may have heard of our schools, Le Cordon Bleu, and you may have heard of us. We had a bunch of lawsuits, but hey, that's in the past. I'm now at a good school that doesn't have lawsuits, which is a good thing. So you guys made a good choice. Let's see, we have announcements. I went through that. Let's go over the syllabus if it's cooperating with us today. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But essentially, it's a 10-week course, and every week is worth 10%. You have a midterm and a final. And also I'll show you how we take these online. Yeah, it's not cooperating. So it's 10 weeks, and if you can see, there's modules 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So think of every week as 10%. So if you look at the first module, what's part of that 10%? First, you have your medical language laboratory material, which is, and I'll go over an example of it, is critical listening video exercises and response exercises and generation. Now, these generation and text exercises. So these three things. So if I tell you we're going over chapter 1 and chapter 2 today, you already know due for next week, not this week, but for next week, Monday morning, October 18th at 9 a.m., I'll be looking into to see if you did these three things for chapter 1. And of course, we're going after chapter 2, and there are critical listening video and exercises 1, 2, and 3, response exercises 1, 2, and generation, audio generation, and text generation. So it's like wash, rinse, and repeat. It's the same three things. Now, this practice, that's you've got some extra time and you want to do some more practice. You're good on that. But what I'm really looking for is these three. Now, there was a question, I believe it was from one of you, that asked well, when I did some of them, it doesn't say like I completed 100%, and it will never say that you would complete 100%. Now, the scoring on there, if let's say you didn't do so hot on your scoring, like you did the critical listening video exercises and you got a 60 or a 70. Well, you can do these exercises as many times as you want. And it is my advice that you do as many times as you want to get the maximum amount of grade. The same concept also is here on your quizzes. So you click on this and then, you preview the quiz, right? And there's already people who already attempted it. Now, if you didn't do so well the first time, guess what? I took off all the stops on how many times you could take a quiz because I want you to view this class. It's a 100 level class. I want you to view it as training. So just like training, you do the material and you do it to some level of mastery, which is of course close to or at 100%. So that's what you're going for your quizzes and for these items. Does anyone have any questions regarding, well, I'm about to show you what this looks like. But 10% every week. And also your midterm and final exam is 50 items, multiple choice. I'll be giving sample exams the week prior. So you have your midterm at week 5, and your midterm is worth 10%, of course, because every week is 10%. To make 10 weeks, 10% each, 100%. So if every week you do your you do your medical language laboratory, you do your quiz, and you do your discussion, which we'll talk about in a moment. You do all that. That's essentially, and of course the midterm and final. That's essentially this course, and it's very straightforward, and it's very regimented, so that every week there's no real surprises. So let's look at, if no one has any questions, and you could also put questions in the chat if you don't want to interrupt the flow of the lecture. And also, again, you have all of this stuff, because how many times you've been at a lecture and you're like, oh, it sounds okay to me, but then you go home and then you study, and then you ask yourself, what the heck did I have no idea what I'm looking at. So of course, email me, text me, and then we'll try to, get an explanation to you. Or you could go to tutor.com, and as your advisor, since I believe all of you except for one person is my advisor, or heck, just contact me for tutoring, because the best person to contact regarding tutoring is your professor. Okay, so always hit up your professor first. Or you could use tutor.com, or you could call student services, right? It's somewhere up here. I forgot. Should be here. Now, since I clicked on this, if you're not signed up for rave alerts, because winter is coming, right? Pun intended for all of you Game of Thrones fans. There might be some cancellations. Also, this is a technical thing. Maybe your server is down, maybe our server is down, and I try my best to at our Zoom sessions to make things work out. But every once in a while, we all know that technology, kind of kicks us in the pants every once in a while. So look out for announcements, or if it's like 8:55 and I'm not on the Zoom and I'm not replying or something, something's happening. So you could text me and or email me, and I monitor it. Last term, my wife had to be rushed to the hospital 15 minutes before my class started, one of my classes start. But I was able, I was in Inova and I was in the waiting room. They had Wi-Fi. I was able to get an announcement out. So look at your announcements and instructions daily. Look at your official Stratford email, and try to use your official Stratford email. That's that mymail.stratford.edu, because your other professors, I have, since I'm a faculty lead, I have access to all of your information, even your alternative phone numbers and that kind of thing. But your typical professor does not have access to it. And also, we've been finding in the last year or so that Gmail and Yahoo sometimes goes to our spam folders. Now I added an extra protocol of checking my spam folders, but like I said, not all professors may be that diligent. They may not be looking at their spam folder. But I get hundreds of emails a day. I'm always looking at my spam folder, because I always call students and they're like, I sent it. And they send me a screenshot that they sent it. And then lo and behold, I look at my spam folder. There it is. right? And vice versa for students. How many times a student said to me, "You didn't send it," and I go, "Yeah, I did. I even have a receipt for it." And then they're like, "Really?" And I go, "Check your spam folder," and there it is. But if we're all on Stratford email, in theory, that thing shouldn't happen. So let's look at more medical language laboratory. So we scroll down a little bit, and your textbooks, it has this green puzzle piece, and that's your medical language laboratory. And then when you click on that, it'll open up a new tab or a new page, right? And if you just want to look at your textbook, in the upper right-hand corner, this is you click on and you find your ebook. And for this week, we're doing chapter 1 and chapter 2. But you'll see my class here, and that's our class. Ooh, hold up. Okay, there you go. 40AX, term 5. So if I view the class, and I don't want to view the grades, I want to view the module. And this week is week 1 and week 2, and it looks a little bit different on yours. And this was the question that somebody asked. Like, I looked at this percent, I did everything, but it's not 100% complete, because remember, there's only specific things that you need to do. Now, when you look at the module, the first chapter is Introduction to Program Learning and Medical Word Building, and the second chapter is Body Structure. I'll be going over chapter 1 today, and then I will be posting the chapter 2 Body Structures lecture as well. And my videos, again, will be on announcements in your Moodle course shell. So if I click on details, you'll see something like this. Now, read means you want to look at the textbook for that particular chapter. So the Introduction to Program Learning is chapter 1. And if you're a textbook person, you can read it. And I'm going to show you some hints on how to read a textbook. Is anyone here an insomniac and has some trouble sleeping? Anybody? No? Let me get a message to student. Okay. So, okay. Directing it to all your Ms. Hammond and all the other admitted insomniacs. I'm one of them. It's also because of training and whatnot. I just wake up and I just can't go to sleep. Well, a great way to go to sleep, read any textbook from cover to cover. I like the Annals of Internal Medicine. It's a couple of thousand pages. I don't think I've ever gotten past page 9. And then I'll just get really tired, start yawning and sleepy. That is not the way to read textbooks. And I'm going to show you the better way to read, or quote unquote read textbooks. It's better to scan, and it's better to have your objective. So we're going to talk about that momentarily. Now, let's say you don't like my lectures. I don't like his lectures. He yaps too much. Okay, there's another option. Of course, you have to attend my lecture, but legally, if you log in and I see you, and this is recorded, of course, right? And you get attendance. It's that simple for an on-the-ground class. Same thing for an on-the-ground class. If you physically show up legally and wave at me at the door, you get attendance. That's it. It's that simple. But if you really want to be engaged, let's say, and if I'm not so arrogant to think that, oh, my lectures are the best in the world. Well, there's other material and there's other lectures here. And you could, of course, click on it, watch, and there's a lecture on that chapter. Let's say you read what you had to read. You reviewed this video, this session, right? Maybe you watched a little bit of this. Well, the next thing you do, which is due next week, right? For chapter 1 and chapter 2, right? It's due October 18th, 9 a.m. are these 3 things: critical listening, response, and generation. So let's go over what a critical listening, and there's 3 exercises. you click on this and and on yours, it would say start or something like that. So if I click on that, now what's critical listening? It's what you should be doing right now. Just like reading, just like not reading every word in a textbook. Another term you may hear in education is called active listening. You now know that your goal is that there's going to be questions and I'm going to be quizzed on things. So because when you listen to this audio recording, you click on it, have a little scrap piece of paper, right? And jot down what you think is important. Okay. And the neat thing about it is, let's say I didn't pick it up. I could take it and rewind it. And it's only a minute long. And then you go to these questions, and the questions will ask you medical terminology based questions based on, of course, the chapter and what you just listened to. Okay. So most likely they'll have a little case or maybe a little dialogue where the doctor and the patient or the nurse and the patient are talking to each other. And then it goes, and during the course of the conversation, there are medical terminology questions somewhere hidden in there. So you do that for exercise and then continue the question. I believe there's like anywhere from 5 to 10 questions per exercise, something like that. So you do exercise 1, answer those questions. Exercise 2, listen to the content, answer the questions. Exercise 3, listen to the content, answer the questions. And of course, goes for chapter 1, and it takes minutes. So, but all of us know as adults, that might be asking a lot, especially with our busy schedules and busy life. It's just how it is. But make the time. Make time to train, make daily, do things daily. And a classic example is today is supposed to be kind of a holiday for the world, but we're in healthcare. There's no such thing as a holiday. You can't predict when your patient's going to code. It can happen any minute. So every day we should be training. I always quote one of my professors. He was a proctor in one of my rotations as a resident. He used to say, he goes, we in healthcare, or we MDs, we're sharks. And he goes, do you know what that means? And I said, what, you bite people's head off? He goes, and look for more people? And he goes, no, got it all wrong. Sharks can't live without moving. And he said, you should be reading all the time. You should be filling your head with things all the time. And medical terminology, for many of you, especially who are working, you're probably thinking, easy A. But the number one problem, the number one cause for medical error is communication. It affects anywhere from, according to the National Institute of Health, anywhere from 30 to 38% of all medical errors. So that's a lot. Imagine 3 out of every 10 of your patients, if they're not listening to you, or if you're not listening to them, you're going to cause mortality and morbidity. And that's the lovely meeting at the end of the week called M&Ms. Mortality, mortis, right? Meaning dead. Morbid, meaning, when you're moribund or when you're morbid, it's you're depressed or you're sick. Now, no one went to the hospital today to get dead or to get sick. So medical term, take that in all of your classes seriously, because there's skill sets, and especially this one that will help you actually in the real world. I'm actually inviting my wife. She is a former nursing student and also a healthcare administrator at Inova. Her data, administrators, they live and die by their metrics and their data. One of the things that they always look at is medical miscommunication that leads to any mortality and morbidity. And wow, she was talking about how one of the classes that she still uses to this day, years after her training, is anatomy and physiology and medical terminology. Aceable class, but Remember why we're in school, not just to get A's, not to just get your RN. You're in it to learn skill sets that you're going to need when you're out there in the world, so that you don't either hurt somebody or kill somebody. So that's critical listening. Okay, you listen to the content, answer the questions, and if you didn't do so hot on the questions and you're like, oh, I totally misunderstood it, go back, retake the little quiz or whatever, and then get 100. So in theory, you can get hundreds on everything because you keep on going back, fixing. And isn't that training? You go back and you fix things that you didn't do well in. And that's kind of contrary to adult ego. The adult doesn't like to be wrong. The adult doesn't like to be told they're wrong. I don't. I'll be honest. I don't like being told that I'm wrong, but I need to know that I'm wrong so that I can go fix it. I'm one of those. I'm not only went to school in New York, and I'm also a New Yorker. I grew up in the Bronx. New Yorkers are consummate pessimists. They always think something's horrific. But I see myself as an optimistic pessimist, meaning to say is when I look at something, I'm like, oh my God, like let's say I got a 90 on an exam. A normal person would be like, yay, 90, but we're in healthcare. You should be focused on the 10% that you got wrong. Why? Because you got it wrong. It's time to fix it. So if I fix that, then I'll be at what? 100%. Then I retrain so it becomes second nature so I can be beyond 100% if that's even possible. And it may not be possible, but always shoot for the maximum. That is one of my mantras, always, always. Now response, same exact thing. If you look at it, you play the video and then you continue to the question, and the question would be, how would you respond to your patient? Okay. For example, he goes, if the patient asks appendectomy, is that is that sort of medication I'm taking? And then your response be, no, that is a surgery. Ectomy means to cut out or to excise, and your appendix is somewhere in your large intestine, right? And we're going to remove that, and that requires surgery. So there's going to be like options on what would you say to your patient, which is again communication, and that's response. And there's only two of them. Now generation, there's audio generation. So if you click on this, all of us should have a microphone built in nowadays, right? And when you answer the question, make sure that your mic is live and you'll see it, and try that out, and it'll save your response as an MP3 file. And the neat part that this particular program, kind of like the way you activate Siri, so speak slowly and clearly and enunciate when you're doing this. And that's what audio generation is. And sometimes it asks you to, repeat a word, like say the word cardiology. And then you say, you press on record and say the word cardiology, and then stop recording. And then that's it. And it's pretty straightforward. And then, of course, text generation. Of course, it's going to ask you a question, and then you're going to have to make sure you spell the medical terminology correctly. Okay. Does anyone have any questions on these three items? How does critical listening go, response, and generation? And if you haven't tried your exercises yet, which is okay, it's just day one, and this stuff is due next week, try it today. This course is scheduled, in theory, when we were on the ground, it's scheduled from 9 to 1:30. Of course, my lectures are not, I'm not going to yap at you for 4 hours, but typically my lectures go like an hour and a half, hour and 50 minutes around, and the rest is up to you. So that's why it's called hybrid. It's like online experience with an actual live lecture. So does anyone have any questions? And welcome, Amen Services. If you could kindly type your name in the chat so I know who you are, or you could change your name in the, I forgot how to change your name, but you could change your name in the in the settings, I think. Or you could put it in the chat so I know who you are. Does anyone have any questions? Nothing? Crickets? Okay. But again, you see any questions for later on? Feel free to give me a call, text me. Now, if I go back, looking at the modules, so I did that. Now I want to go to the chapter 2 because not only chapter 1 and chapter 2 are due next week. Chapter 1, chapter 2, and then I go into details and I do the same exact thing. I could either read or watch, but the required is the critical listening, the response, and the generation. And if you got some time or you make time, you hit up the practice content. Okay, and there are flashcards, word searches. So it's a very interactive thing, and it's nice. Also, there's a whole ton of free material online that does the same exact thing. All right, with that being said, let's now look at Lending Club. See, now that I'm paying my bills, I just paid off yet another one of my many educational loans. You know, they always hit you up when your credit score goes just a little bit higher. And start bothering you. So let's click back onto module 1 and let's look at this discussion. So I'm going to start a new topic and they'll call it discussion 1. And have you ever felt that the healthcare professional is lying to you or keeping some information from you? Is it right to do that? Okay, so may seem like a simple question and may ask yourself, okay, how do I do this? Well, your initial post should be anywhere from 200 to 250 words and should have these items in it. So let's take this. Well, let's post it first. Jumping ahead of the gun. So that's, of course, I click on that and that's the discussion. Now, if you want to put your thread in, right, your answer to that, you can either answer me within here, but it's better to click on this, add a new discussion, and you put discussion 1. So it'll start your thread, your answer, and then I'll reply back to you. And again, you know, try to get something today and tomorrow so we can have a reply, because this is classic, isn't it? What does the healthcare professional have to tell you? Right? Do they have to tell you everything? Now, don't be on the fence and go, yes, they do in some cases. No, they don't. Pick a side, right? And then this is what you do. Because a lot of people, especially if you're not so great at writing, how do I turn that one sentence into 250 words? Oh, we lost somebody. Hope they come back on. All right. So, of course, you have to have some sort of introduction. So in your introduction, in your post, you could restate the question or simply answer it. And when you answer it, that's essentially your opinion. Okay, I believe, let me just pick. I believe that I don't have to tell you everything. I don't have the time nor the inclination to tell you everything. I have typically anywhere from 68 to 88 patients on my census. If I had to sit there and tell you everything about your chart, everything about every lab, we'd be here all day. I wouldn't be able to see other patients. So with my opinion, you see, I also have my rationale. You have to answer the question, why do you believe that should be your answer? Another thing you do in your introduction, there might be some definitions that you want to clear up. Now, after that, That will be your body. This is important because that's where you provide evidence in APA 7th edition format. And we'll be having I think it's I'll be announcing it. It's next week at 11 a.m. We'll be having a special guest. So after our lecture, you can log off, right? And then log back in. We have a lecture series for next week and the week after with Ms. Laura De Leon, our university librarian, regarding plagiarism and APA 7th edition format. Because in this day, well, since ever there were people, everyone has an opinion and everyone has a rationale on why that opinion makes sense. The problem is a lot of people talk without any evidence. Okay, let's use my country, my home country of the Philippines, for example. They have a 10-day mandatory quarantine for any foreign visitors, even if they're vaccinated. Why in heaven's name 10 days? Makes no sense. And also, here's the other thing. I'm going to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but as an educator, because my goal is to also have you learn how to look at things and question everything. Just because I am not the sage on the stage, I'm not this guy like, oh, listen to me, everything I say is golden. How do you know? Always confirm it. Another classic example is, does anyone know what's in the COVID testing? The formula, right? What the heck is RPR? Well, my problem with it is, not only I'm an MD, I have a master's degree in physical chemistry, which means I know the numbers and the mathematics of chemistry and the physics of it. And I also have a cousin who runs a laboratory in Tennessee. And when all of this stuff came out, because last time I remember, a polymerase chain reaction takes 7 to 10 days in a laboratory. So how in heaven's name did you get lab results in 48 hours? So I asked him. That was my opinion. I had a rationale why I was confused about the test. Then I tried to define what some of these tests are, which I can't find because it's so-called proprietary. Meaning to say is it's the company's secret sauce, and by law they're not really mandated to divulge it. So since I can't find evidence, now I become like almost like an anti-vaxxer. Like, oh, I don't want to do any of this stuff because I don't know what it is. Me personally, I just do it because if it's the law, it's the law. You know, what am I going to do? Fight City Hall? But as a educator, as a person who taught epidemiology for 10 years, I'm questioning some of the data. I'm questioning a lot of the data. I'm not the only one. Over the summer, I took a $1,400 COVID training session for medical doctors. And even though I don't practice, I wanted to know what's going on. And they had special guests, including Dr. Fauci, including several scientists representing the CDC and the Department of Health and the NIH. There were 400 questions on what is this test and what are you guys talking about being able to detect variants? That doesn't make any sense to any of us. You know what's crazy? A whole bunch of people logged off the training and wanted their money back because they couldn't provide strong enough evidence for the MDs and PhDs that were on that call, and it was highly politicized, which made us all highly suspect. Because and Dr. Fauci even said it the best a couple of years ago. He goes, for this case and for these kind of situations, it is almost impossible to remove the politics from the science. And that's scary to me because politics is more of opinion. We're science. I want evidence. I do not speak to my patient unless I have evidence. And that's also part of my rationale why I don't tell my patient everything. If I don't have a diagnosis, how can I tell my patient anything? How can I even inform my patient of management if I don't know what you have, if I'm not sure what you have? So evidence. And also, if you're making an argument, have a strong, what kind of websites are good? Think stuff like .orgs, right? Like hospitals, vetted, what do you call that? Healthcare professionals. .gov, of course, like the NIH, CDC, and .edu, medical schools and nursing schools. Then my rationale, right? So let's say, for example, I say something like in a 2021 study, and make sure it's relevant, 2020, 2021. Because if I said, hey, I did some research and in 1998, they said this, that's 98, geez, right? Graduated medical school around that time. That's stuff that I learned in medical school is so ancient now. So look for something that's new, that's relevant from a .org, .gov, .edu to back up your opinion, to back up your rationale, or to tell me where you got those definitions from. And that's the important part of an actual post. Do you have actual evidence of where you got your information from? Like, is there an actual protocol that forces me to tell my patient everything? There may or may not be. You have to look it up. And of course, wrap it all up. So you have a distinct beginning, middle, and end. And do this also with your term papers. You don't have a term paper for this class, but I'm sure you'll have other term papers. So that is showing that you have an actual organized opinion, and for future purposes, an organized argument. You have an introduction, you have actual evidence, and you have a conclusion. Same thing when you're also writing in business. I want to have a pay raise. So this is my opinion, I need a pay raise. I have to give you my rationale. I have to give you actual definitions. It goes on why my rationale works. I have to have evidence. So if I ask my boss regarding a pay raise, which sounds like a good idea, right? I have to show Dr. A. Sadebe, who's my campus president, my direct report. I have to show her evidence. And the last time I did that, I got a raise because I showed her not only the budget, which showed that there was money to pay me extra. I also showed how my performance in the last year, I showed my metrics, because I made the university better or made the university some money. I showed actual evidence. So the conclusion, it would be easier for me to get that pay raise. Instead of just saying, I work really hard, right? And I've been here 8 years and I think I deserve something. Well, that's not going to work. And as a former hiring manager, especially in the corporate world, I need to know, and actually in the corporate world, you need to have actual evidence. So let's say, for example, you want to buy something and you want to use the company card. Well, you have to show me evidence that it is required. You have to show me evidence that it will actually improve the revenue and will improve it concretely. If not, then you don't get what you want. It's that simple. And isn't that life? You always want something. And also nowadays, make sure that it's a polite argument. I have some family members that I cannot talk to them about politics or religion or any of those hot topics. Because why? They'll focus on the opinion and they won't focus on fact. And that's hard because there are I don't like all the candidates in this world, but there are some concrete evidences that they either did good or did bad. And if you have something that's updated, that's good on you. And in graduate school, you could have both the same argument, but whoever has the best data, the best evidence wins. And know that for a fact, because in undergraduate, I was in a little thing called Gannon Debate Council and National Forensic League. I used to debate. I went to Fordham University for undergraduate because I was supposed to go to law school. But I fell in love with science because the law You could twist it. You could do anything you want to it, but you cannot twist evidence and actual scientific fact. Scientific fact. Water is comprised of 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. That's it's indisputable. But in law, it's iffy. Not it goes. Not quite sure. What's what, right? So, does anyone have any questions on how you are to do your first post on for your discussion? Let me go back to. So, have you ever felt that the healthcare professional is lying to you? Okay, maybe you have, or they're keeping information. And your answer is it right to do that? Should the healthcare professional keep information from you? Cite some law, cite some actual evidence, cite some protocol in a local hospital that was dated sometime in the last couple of years to show you that what your opinion is valid. And I picked something vague like this that can go either way so that you pick a side and then defend it. And 200 to 250 words. And also, some of you are really, really good at writing. So please don't give me 1,000 words, okay? Because many times I'm all about conservation of writing. If you can't tell from the way I talk way too much. But
Dr. Garais.
Yes, it's Garais. But yes,
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, that's all right.
Dr.
I don't
Garais.
pronounce it right.
You're, you're on that screen, right?
Yes.
So that's where I could not figure out how to move it. I don't know.
Well, it goes, if you're on the screen, you see my screen now? And it's
Yes,
like a thing, it says add a new discussion topic.
Correct.
Like I'm going to pretend to be you, and then you click on that, and then you put the subject, which will be discussion
Correct.
1. And then in the message, that's where you put, you put your, one way you could also do it is you can write it on Microsoft Word or right? And then copy and then paste it on here. And then click on post to forum, and then it'll put you up. It'll put you on there.
Okay.
Okay. So try it out. And worst comes to worst, if it doesn't work, give me a call, and then we can do Zoom, or we could try it. Right after this lecture.
Yes,
Well, we could try it out and try it out online while we're all here. And then
my next question for you is the discussion. Do you pick the topics or do we pick the topics?
I pick the topic. So every week during lecture, I talk about it. Ooh, what happened to my topic? Did I delete it? Cancel. Discussion forum. No, it's still there. So you see things like that. Best thing to do is either close it out, go back, because I lost it there for a minute, but it's still there. So you could either answer my discussion here, or my thing is try a new discussion topic here, because okay, after you this week you only put your initial topic, your answer, but in the weeks to come you're going to answer, or you're going to reply to your classmates. And the way to do that is the same exact way, but much shorter, like maybe less than 100 words. Like, let's say, for example, let's go back here so I can give you at least another preview. Let's say, for example, I wrote, you should always tell the patient everything. And then you have, your opinion and all that other stuff, right? Then let's say this is a reply. He goes, good morning, Mr. Garais. I respectfully do not agree. I have a case that I found in the Journal of American Medical Association, right? That states,
Right.
blah, 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 quote, and he goes, that I shouldn't tell them everything. And just to give you guys a little bit fuel for whatever side you want to be on, let's say, for example, any of you ever work in a nursing home where the patient, they're much older, maybe they're dementia class 1, and they also have a heart condition.
Yes.
Isn't there notes that you don't say certain things, right? Like one example that one of my students quoted a couple of years ago, they had the husband in one room and the wife in another room, and they typically don't physically see each other, but the husband died and the wife had a very weak heart. Essentially for 8 months, they were lying to her that her husband was alive. And that was a protocol that got handed down from the medical director. And everyone on staff agreed. So everyone on staff had to pretend that he was alive. So if you have that evidence and that case, right, that could be an argument against this, right?
Right. Now, how do you move it? How do you move it from Word?
Well, you copy and paste it. Let's say this is Word, right?
Right.
I right click it, copy it. Let's say I had add a new discussion topic. It's there. Put it in there, right? Left click it to get that. Right click it, paste it.
But Dr. Garais, I
Yeah.
don't have a mouse on this. This is a pad.
For Mac, right click is 2 fingers. And we could discuss technical stuff since you got a new Mac. And for those of you who are like technophiles and stuff like that, I'm also one of those people.
Yeah. I don't have that.
I'm one of those people. I built my first PC. I was 12 because my mom was too freaking cheap to go get me some video games. So went to one of those supply stores, those military supply stores, and me and some friends got some money together, and we built a system that was better than any system that they had. Then in high school, we started selling illegal software. Really neat. Helped pay for the prom. It's kind of cool. So I'm one of those people. But ethically, I have to adhere to the higher model. So we could talk about technical stuff later regarding what to click on and how to deal with your computer and that stuff. So I can
Yes,
hang
sir.
on. I can hang on after the lecture for that because
Yes, sir.
I don't want to.
I'm sorry, Mr. Garais.
Yeah, shoot.
When was the due date for that discussion board?
Due date for all week 1 items is October 18th, 9 a.m. So
Okay, and you said 200 words?
200 to 250, give or take. I'm not gonna sit there and count words, but that size around there. That should be enough to make a good argument. And actually, if you go to 300, 350, which is approximately the level of most of your humanities classes, yeah, that's okay by me. But if you start going into like 1,000, I had a couple of students last term, they were starting to write a book because I'm like, hey, it's kind of cool, but it's concise. It's better to make your argument in short, quick bursts. And I require at least 1 APA formatted discussion. So you have to have some evidence, and I'll chop off 10, 20% if you don't have any evidence. If it's just your opinion, okay, and your rationale is good, okay, that's great. But we're scientists. We shouldn't say anything without any data. That's why it kills me when medical professionals say stuff like to the patient, oh, you're gonna be fine. How do you know that? That's one of the things I can't stand in the ward, when people talk out of turn and say, you're gonna be fine, I think you're gonna be okay. No, how do you know that? You don't say that. You say that because we're gonna be working on it, and we're gonna look at it, and we're gonna do labs, and we're gonna do some management, and we're gonna go fight this thing. Okay? Because, but I cannot predict that you're going to be okay. It's impossible. How many times I had a patient look great? I went to lunch, and they're putting the pads on him. And then they die, and then I have to answer for that. And I'm sitting there with a Big Mac in my hand, going, "What the hell happened? He was okay a minute ago." It's one of the 101 reasons why I'm not a doctor anymore. The blame game. And you'll learn that if ever you guys take a really nice class, is MED 230, which is medical law and ethics. It's different from your HUM 1110, which is principle of ethics. I like the MED 230 class, not only because I taught it for years, but it gives you practical application of what actually happens to you in practice. I used to be in New York City EMS. I was not even in EMS 4 months when I first got sued. And I got sued for doing my job. But what did I present at court? I presented evidence. They dismissed it. I was reinstated in 4 days. It is what it is, but it taught me a valuable lesson. Actually, I loved medicine and I loved medical science so much that I stayed in the game. That should have been a sign that, hey man, maybe go back to law. All my lawyer friends they seem happier for some bizarre reason. Maybe it's also just a case of grass is always greener, isn't it? So now that you know all the items that you need for next week, which is medical language laboratory, critical listening video exercises, response exercises, audio and text generation for chapter 1 and chapter 2 in your e-textbook. Also, make sure you do your quiz. And for those of you who work in the field, the quiz is pretty easy. You can actually kind of take it. We're going to redo the quizzes to make them jive with this and make them harder, but I find them too easy in my opinion. And of course, we already discussed your discussion forum. So all of that. Now, late policy. Another saying, you're going to hear me a lot of medical school sayings because they pretty much indoctrinated me, just like anything else. But you'll always hear a lot in healthcare, on time is late. Well, for us, you can submit stuff late, but honestly, if you're submitting stuff late in a 100 level class that I already described more like training, then you got a time management problem on your hands. And I will be brutally honest, because your NSG nursing courses, and also for those of you who are in healthcare admin, health information management, your higher level courses will demand more of you. And there are a whole bunch of professors who will not accept late items. And all of us who do work in the real world know that late means yet another opportunity to be fired or to be replaced. So, and especially in healthcare, late, you could kill somebody. So try to do stuff on time, get your time management in check. So like today, start today, right? Many times I did a survey on all my classes. 78% of my students hand in items 12 hours before due dates. That's a lot. That means you're skirting trouble. And also, you guys know when you're doing stuff last minute, it's not quality work. You're doing it to check off a box. And again, cherish your education. I'm one of those people who doesn't have great grades. I'm a B student at best. I've been one forever, right? But why? Because why did I get the positions that I got, the education that I got, and the programs that I got into? How did I get in there? Because I work more efficiently and harder than my neighbor consistently. And one of those things are work daily, right? Many professors I noticed, like Friday, 3 p.m., it's like they disappeared off the face of the planet. Don't be that person, right? Always be diligent. And that's because we're all in this business to help people, and diligence is part of it. Being awake when everyone else isn't. Learn that lesson real quick. My first rotation in surgery as a fourth-year medical student, they're also called medical clerks. I fell asleep. I missed something. Surgical patient went south. She went hypernatremic. And my God, I almost killed her because I wasn't there to monitor. I wasn't there to inform the nurse who didn't inform the doctor. And then a whole bunch of things happened. And at 6 a.m., this poor woman was a mess metabolically. And ultimately, whose fault it was? Me, because I was sleeping when I shouldn't have been. I should have been managing my time better. And that's also part of the reason why I'm an insomniac. I'm lucky if I get 3 hours a night. And I try not to medicate myself. Even though I'm from the world of internal medicine, I don't like meds. I also taught pharmacology for years, so I know, and as a chemist, I know exactly what meds do to you. They alter your your chemistry, and it's very difficult to alter it back. So with that being said, let's start looking at this textbook. So again, when you go on your main page, this is the main page. You have your textbook here. You click on that. It'll bring you to a new thing here. And then you could go into chapter 1, which is this, Introduction to Program Learning, and you could click on read, or in the beginning of your of this page, there's in the upper right-hand corner, it says ebook, and you could read that. So I click on that. It's going to bring me to yet another tab. Okay. And then I'm going to show you how, and you could see due for next week, chapter 1, chapter 2. So how do you read textbooks? This. Now, just like on a trip or any trip, you look at the map first. I hope you're not one of these people who just set the GPS and then go on your merry way. That is a problem in healthcare. A lot of healthcare professionals they assume things, and they look at labs and go, and they don't look at and understand their objectives of why you even did the labs in the first place. And also, I call it GPS syndrome, where have you ever like logged in an address into your GPS, or you clicked on something on your GPS and it totally brought you to a different place? When GPS was in its infancy, I bought one of the, I told you guys I'm a technophile. I bought one of these new Garmin's, and I'm thinking like it was and this was 10 years ago. I'm thinking it was the best thing since sliced bread. And then I ended up in another state, and my wife's looking at me like, then he goes, we're not in the right state. Why did you listen to it? And he goes, well, I just clicked it on and I just kept on going. And then she reminded me, didn't even have a plan, didn't plan it out. And a good healthcare professional has to plan something. So looking at the plan, let's look at this. And also the objectives also give you a hint on how exams go down. That's a classic question, isn't it? That you ask a professor, like, hey, professor, what's the test going to be on? Now, many professors go, well, that's your problem, right? Now, I can tell you why they say things like that and they get upset, because it is the student's role to do what? Know and identify what the objectives are. And the objectives for this particular chapter is, we're going to look at medical terminology as a programmed learning technique. So for example, many of you are already in the healthcare game and kind of know what the words mean. You kind of have a definition in your head of, what certain things mean. So here's a class. Well, I'm going to give you an example in a minute. Well, the program learning technique is, it shows you the 4 elements or the 4 parts on how to actually build a medical term. We don't teach you here the medical terms per se, but we teach you the parts. And again, another bullet point that says parts. We teach you the parts so that you can like put together the word and multiple different words that you've never seen, just like Lego, and you build words. So you apply these rules that have to deal with these words and how to pronounce them. Now, the pronunciation, we don't really do that since, we don't have too many on campus, but you have those listening and text generation exercises in your medical language laboratory. Know the examples of surgical, diagnostic, pathological, and related suffixes. Suffix is one of the 4 elements or one of the 4 parts. Know the comics prefix and their meanings. Okay, so right off the bat, 1, 2, 3, 4 bullet points are telling me parts. So this chapter means what? I have to know these parts. I have to know the meaning of these parts. So right off the bat, that should be part of your plan, and that should be your active listening impetus, or the thing that's going to spark your learning. Start thinking that these parts are really important. Now, fast forward in 4 or 5 weeks from now, when you have your midterm, what do you think more than half the exam is going to be? It's going to be on parts. Also, it says how to pluralize, plural versus singular. Two of these bullet points are in there. So you have to be able to tell the difference between plural and singular. And it's very silly in the ward where you see, you see people use terms wrong, and they use medical terms wrong. It's right off the bat, marketing wise, when people look at you and work with you, you'll come off as non-professional. So again, back to communication. Okay. And demonstrate your knowledge. No. Okay, fine. We always have to demonstrate knowledge. So right off the bat, when I'm reading these objectives, it's screaming, this particular chapter is all about the parts. Okay. And the side note is I gotta know these types: surgical, diagnostic, pathological. And I'm gonna also have notes that breaks down the first couple of chapters to also give you an example on also how to take notes. So your whole textbook is like this. They ask you, like, they tell you a little something and they ask you like a little question, and then you could show your you could click on this and like maybe type your answer or something like that. So like here, and then type your answer, and then you show the answer to see if you're right. Okay. Now, a whole bunch of these instructions, okay, all well and good. By the way, the second you log out, it doesn't save anything. If you want to save stuff, my advice is, especially for those of you who love paper, you could screenshot the screen and then copy and paste it onto a Microsoft Word document. But right off the bat, I'm looking at this and it tells me nothing about parts yet. So I'm going to skim through it. I'm going to scan it. Now that I know my objectives and now I know exactly what I want, I'm going to go directly to what I want. Now, that's the way that lawyers, doctors, nurses, engineers, didn't you ever wonder how they can read a 1,500-page textbook and in a day take an exam on it? Which, by the way, that's medical school. They do stuff like that. They'll give you reading assignments on a Monday. You'll have an exam, 200 to 250 items, multiple choice, with a 1 hour time limit. And they'll want you to know what's in that book and random. Well, how do I know? I look at my objectives and then I go straight to what's important. So I'm looking, number of blank items. I don't care about that. Some frames, I don't care about that. What's these frames? I don't care. Bang. Look at that. Word elements. A medical word consists of some or all of the following: a word root, a combining form, a suffix, and a prefix. Okay, right? So what are these parts? So then I go through. Word root is the main part. Okay, main part of the word. So let's look at it. And this is in the notes that I'll be sharing with you later. Let's look at the word cardiology. Now, just talking about the parts. You have your root, which is the main, we already learned, right? Your textbook will also tell you there's a suffix, and that's the ending, right? You have your combining vowel, A, E, I, O, U, but typically it's an O, and it combines things, right? Like roots and suffixes. Oopsies. You could also have a prefix, and pre means before, so it's before the main idea, which is the root. And if I take the root plus the combining vowel, which is 9 times out of 10, O, I get a combining form. I can't type. So let's look at this word cardiology. The main idea in cardiology, and logi means, cardiology means study or department of heart. So the root, that's the main idea. Cardi is the root. So it'll be written like this: cardi with a slash. And the meaning, of course, heart. the suffix thing on the end. So it's the ending. So it'll be written like this with a slash, logi. Logi means department of, study of. Combining vowel, of course, is an O. The prefix, there's nothing before it, right? So there's no prefix. And the root plus combining vowel, which is the combining form, is cardi. And O. Do you think I could have an exam right now off the word cardiology? Have a quiz? Yeah, sure. Could it be this? The medical term cardiology, which of the following is the root? And I could have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Can I change the root to suffix? Sure. Can I change root to combining vowel? Sure. Can I change root to combining form? Sure. And I can have all the different answers. How's this? Can I do it also backwards? In the medical term cardiology, what is logi? Or what part is logi in the medical term cardiology? And I could have it. Is it the root? Is it the suffix? Is it a combining vowel? Is it a prefix? Is it a combining form? I could do that with every single word that you'll see on your textbook. So what can you do when you're at home? You think you can look at your textbook and look at every word and do this for every word? Yeah, sure. Dr. Grace D, one of the youngest directors of Center for Disease Control. She was our valedictorian. She used to do this for every class. And then she used to do something even more insane. She used to categorize them as Alpha, Bravo, or Charlie questions. Alpha is must know. Bravo is good to know. Charlie, don't even bother. It's nice to know. It's quiz show material. It's trivia. So if you start realizing and start understanding what's important and what's not important, don't you think you can now preempt your professor's exams, all of them, and not only get good grades, but then understand, why am I taking this class? Why is it important? So now you know what's important. And look, I could have little quizzes here that I could have myself. So throughout the book, right, shown as examples, what is the root of the medical term alcoholic? And you could write it here, but let's show some answers. Of course, the root is alcohol. What's the root of the word dentist? Dent. How about if I said the word dental? Al means pertaining to, dent is teeth. Lump means tumor or mass. Lumpectomy. Lump is the root, ectomy is the suffix. What's insulinism, right? State or process of providing insulin, the hormone insulin, most likely to our diabetic patient. Insulin is the root. Oopsies. Ism is the suffix. My patient has gastritis. Inflammation or infection of the stomach. So, and we just learned the other root, cardi. So can I put carditis in here? And that will be inflammation or infection of my stomach. So throughout the book, you can see things like this where you can, oh, look at that. Hint, hint, where do you think I get some of my exams? Oh, look, for example, the root is cardial, cardiac, cardiogram, pertaining to the heart, pertaining to the heart. Gram is recording of what? The heart. So an EKG is your electrocardiogram. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, we're also going to go over common abbreviations and acronyms. Now, no, I'll talk more about that later, but it's a double-edged sword, acronyms, because it sometimes adds to communication for greater efficiency, but it also sometimes it also confuses people. So you could see there, cardi. Cardi is the root, means heart. And so I could have a cardiac question, cardiogram question. So in this medical term, what's the root? Cardi. In this medical term, what's the root? Cardi. In this medical term, you get the hint. Now let's go back to itis. For those of you in the room or the virtual room, and this also will be on your notes. Carditis, of course. The root is the main item, and that's of course card, right? And the suffix, which is the end, that's of course itis. Okay, that's good. But itis means inflammation. Okay. Now, this is also the other reason why you study medical terminology. Can anyone on the call right now, you could put it in the chat. Can you give me the complete definition of what inflammation means? How's this? Try to explain to me like I'm a 10-year-old what inflammation is. Anybody? What does inflammation mean? Like one of my patients want to ask me, does it mean I'm on fire? I remember she looked at me. It has the word flame in it. Right? Now, I could sit there and make fun of her and label her as stupid, but she isn't. She doesn't have training. She doesn't have this course. So it does sound, okay, irritation. Irritation of what? So if I have gas, irritation of my heart, incomplete. And define irritable. So if I have nephritis, I have irritation of my kidneys. Gaster is stomach. But you can see what I'm talking about. It's hard to define, isn't it? Like, I know what it is, right? Now, the complete medical school / nursing school definition of inflammation is this. There are 5 cardinal signs and symptoms of inflammation, which is a response to either foreign body or your frontline protective defense of your body. You're in anatomy and physiology, you're going to learn that part. But it's rubor, calor, dolor, what's the fourth one? Now I'm having a moment. I'm having a senior moment, even though I'm not a senior citizen yet, even though I feel like it. Rubor, calor, dolor, functiolacea. See how hard it is, even for me, I'm the teacher, like to remember all these, 2 more. Okay, those are your 5 cardinal signs and symptoms. Rubor, of course, redness. Goes back to your irritation. If I rub something, it'll be irritable, which is partially correct. Calor, that's like what? Heat, warmth. Dolor, in Espanol, dolor, pain. Or it could be itching because, you know, if you have extreme itching or ever have a scratch that you can't an itch you can't scratch. That's pain. And tumor doesn't mean cancer in medical terminology. It just means lump or bump. Now, are you going to sit here and try to memorize all of these? Or can I remember it as a bug bite? All of us had a bug bite. And this is also one of my study techniques. Whatever I say or whatever the textbooks say is inconsequential at times. What's important is how you pick it up. So, for example, bug bite. Everyone, I hope everyone here has had a bug bite before. And we all know that it turns red and you feel in that area, it's kind of warm either is painful or itchy, and then you get a little bump. And then especially if you have, the bump on a joint space, or it swells up, your finger or that joint space won't work too well because you got the bug bite right, right on the crease, right on the spot of your finger. And then it'll swell up your finger a little bit. That is what inflammation is. It is an immune response to something. And it'll have redness, heat, warmth, pain, itching, lump or bump, and functionalisia. It will be loss of function or lack of function. So this, of course, is the Latin medical terminology, old school, right? Remember, tumor doesn't mean they have cancer. It means lump or bump. But don't use that word around your patient, because what are they going to start thinking? You're going to start thinking what? I got cancer. Every term I always tell this story. Lady, she was in mid-50s. She came in with her son because she found a lump near her armpit. And what do you call that? When I biopsied it, in the biopsy, it had the word tumor in it, because that's what we call bumps. The pathologist wrote the word 2-centimeter tumor found in an upper outer region of right breast, approximately blah, 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 blah. The second she read the word tumor, the second she saw the word tumor, she wigged out. So in the 10 minutes that I was gone, her and her son started crying. Then the son called her boss to tell him that they would need financial compensation because he believes the tumor was from, she worked in a factory or something like that, was from the workplace. And I'm sitting there like, what the hell happened in the last 10 minutes that led to the tears and led to potential legal action against your boss? Now, again, we could label her stupid, but she isn't stupid, right? She was told something without context, right? And then what happened? She jumped to confusions, and then all hell broke loose. But we were able to get it all squared away. And let's say you even have a tumor. We have to grade it first. We have to talk to the Department of Oncology. Onc, they're the experts at tumors. So think of a bug bite. So you don't have to, that's actually what I recalled on try to remember the 5 cardinal signs and symptoms of inflammation. So now, instead of saying all of this, the importance of medical terminology is to cut it short. So my patient has carditis. It's not only an irritation of their heart. They're going to have pain. They might have a lump or bump in or around an area of their heart, and the heart's going to have some problems. And the heart, its function is to pump things, blood, and we need it. And there's going to be loss of function. So carditis, it's more than an irritation. It's more than just a swelling. It is a confluence of all of these things. And do you see how, knowing the actual definition, you're able to rephrase it so that your patient, who may potentially be a layperson, right, or a child, that they can understand. And this is a better way to do it, because using vague terms is common in the medical world. But like I said, we're scientists. We like to use data. We like to use exact terms. And this is exactly how I explain any itis, nephritis, carditis. And you see, all I have to do is change the root and it'll mean something totally different. Or I could add a prefix, endocarditis, inflammation or infection of. Endo is the prefix that means within. So it's not on the outside of my heart, it's on the inside of my heart. How about if I had pericarditis that led to pericardial tamponade, which is the squeezing of your heart due to all the fluid that gets locked up in your pericardium. Or peri means surrounding. So inflammation or infection of the surrounding part of your heart. And that's pericarditis. Endocarditis, myocarditis. We can go on forever. Now, it is an organized way of thinking, and it's an organized way of looking at medical terms. Hence, one of our main objectives of this particular chapter. So you can go down, oh, looky here. I could see breakdowns, some common words, which also are in the notes that I'll be providing. Combining form. So if I look at the word gastritis, the combining form is gastro. If I look at the word nephritis, the combining form is nephro. Because remember, the combining form is the word root plus the vowel, which is almost always an O. Okay? Combining form of gastroscope is the root plus an O, right? So I could write gaster. Oh, let's see if I'm right. Yep. Nephropathy. Pathy is the suffix that means disease. Nepher means kidney. So my patient might have glomerulonephritis, which is a nephropathy. And we're going to see the Department of Nephrology. Logi, study of nepher. So you could see how if you learn the parts, you learn like all the words. And then after a while, like especially for those of you who are new, you'll see it's like a lot of wash, rinse, and repeat, and you'll see it once you go through the exercises. By week 3, I get a lot of complaints like, Dr. Garais, we already saw that one already. Yep. The textbook is doing that to you on purpose. How about if I had arthritis? How about if I had phlebitis? Right? Arthro would be the combining form of arthritis. Arthur means joint space. Itis, inflammation or infection of my joint space. Phlebitis, inflammation or infection of my phleb, which is vein. That's why you have future training for those of you who are clinical in the room. You have training on phlebotomy, tomy, to cut into phleb, vein. Lith. Lith means stone. So if I had a lithotripsy, let me write that word down. I had a lithotripsy. I could ask you, okay, what's the root? Okay, that's lith. What's the combining vowel? Okay, that's O. What's the suffix? That's tripsy. So lith, what's the meaning? It means stone. Combined vowel, no meaning. It just connects these two things. The suffix is tripsy. And I like looking at this. Every time I see Y, I think process of. And tripsy is process of crushing. So what am I doing? I'm in the process of crushing a stone. Because I could have a kidney stone called a nephrolith. Nepher, kidney, lith, stone. And in this case, the lith is the suffix, nepher is the root, O, combining vowel. Okay. Now, if I'm going a little bit too fast, please either raise your hand or in the chat to slow me down because I've been known to yap a little bit fast. Or if you're watching the video, you can pause it. Again, I'll make the video available on the announcements. Again, more of what a combining form is. It's a root plus an O. I think we got that thing down. Oh, here's some cool things. More words. Chemotherapy. It's therapy or management that I use chemicals with. Dermatology, study of skin. Encephalography. Graphy, remember that Y? Process of recording. What am I recording? Brain. Neurology, logi, study of neur, which is nerves or your brain. Thermometer, meter is an instrument that measures therm, heat. I could also ask you in the word chemotherapy, which is the suffix, which is the root, which is the combining vowel. And I could do that for each and every one of these. Hint, hint. It's exactly how I made my midterm. I pretty much went through all your chapters and went, hey, this looks like a nice one. This looks like a nice one. Then I modify it and I change it. Ooh, look at this one. Here's something interesting. Gastroenteritis. Gaster is stomach. Enter is intestines. You could see the combining vowel connecting two roots. This word has two roots, gaster and enter. And the gaster, of course, is stomach. Enter is intestines. So if my patient has gastroenteritis, doesn't that sound like a both A and B question of my patient has an infection of, is it A, stomach, B, intestines, both, neither? That is also called a K question. Guess who's the only people in this universe that still use K questions? Healthcare. Everyone else got rid of K questions, even engineering schools, even law school, they got rid of K questions because K questions have been known to, their function is to confuse people. But, and I'll talk more about this in week 4, there are methods to defeating that kind of question. Leukocytopenia. Leuko means white, cyto means cell. So this is your white blood cell. Penia is the suffix, right? That means lack or decrease of. So my patient has a decrease of white blood cells. Maybe they have HIV. Maybe they have another, maybe they have cancer that could do that. There's a whole bunch of things that could do it. Leukocytopenia. Electrocardiogram. What is the combining form? Right? Electrocardio. So let's look at this. Do you notice how when I take apart the word, I start back here in the suffix, then I go to the front. So gram means a recording of, elector means electricity, cardio means heart. So an electrocardiogram, also known as an ECG or an EKG, is the recording of the electricity of your heart. And just as a little side note of trivia, since I also teach EKG, the class, electrocardiogram, the reason why it has a K instead of a C, because the people who invented the electrocardiogram were the Germans, and the Germans have a K for their word cardio instead of C. It's for all of you who sprechen Sie Deutsch. Play, read, play. And then you can go on through the entire rest of the chapter. And do you see what I'm doing? I'm focusing. And do you see also what the chapter is doing? It's focusing on word parts and their meaning. Here you go. Here's another. Tonsillitis, inflammation or infection of my tonsils. Gastrectomy. Ectomy is a process of removing or excising my stomach. And we already went through arthritis, inflammation or infection of your arthur, your joints, and it's debilitating. Ugh. I'll always mention many of my ailments, and one of them is I have RA, rheumatoid arthritis, and I've got gouty arthritis. Ugh. The RA I could deal with, you take some naproxen, call it a day. But gouty arthritis, when it comes, and it's painful. Ugh. Here you go. How to break things down. So if you know how to break them down, you already have a parts question. So even though you don't know the meaning of the word scleroderma, you'll know that if I ask derma, you'll tell me that's on the end, that's suffix. Scler, that's got to be the root. O, it's got to be the combining vowel. Scleroderma means a thickening or hardening of your skin. Mastodynia. Dynia means pain. It's a suffix. It's on the end. Mast means breast tissue. So if my patient had a mastectomy, they had an ectomy, a removal or excise of, or had her breast excised, either unilaterally, one side, uni means one, or bilaterally, bi means two or both. So my patient could have bilateral mastodynia, right, on both sides, or unilateral on one side. Arthroplasty, arthur is joint. We already know that from arthritis. Plasty, again, you see that Y, you think process of. Plasty, also with plastic surgery, means repair. That's why I'm not such a fan of plastic surgery that isn't repairing anything. So if you're 16 and you want a cuter nose, right? Or heck, 26, 36. The problem is not your nose. The problem is your perception of your nose. Right? That's why me personally and professionally, I don't like approving plastic surgeries unless they're for some defined trauma. For example, one of the plastic surgeries I approved early in my career, a young lady, 19 years old, Ford runway model. She just got her contract, living in New York for the first time. She was in a cab, and the cab got sideswiped by a garbage truck. And her head was leaning against the glass when it happened. The glass on the taxi cab shattered and cut her face in 32 places. Plastic surgery, that's what it's for. And in a little over a year, they fixed her up and hid all the scars, and she was back to work. And that's the reason why you get plastic surgery. You don't get plastic surgery because, I want a bigger butt. You want a bigger butt? Do squats. Or dudes who get chest implants. You want a bigger chest? Go to the gym. Push some weight. Get on that diet. Right? I'm especially when I watch. If any of you guys watch that show, we all love watching. Well, at least I do. I love watching reality TV. And one of the train wrecks of a show, other than 90 Day Fiance, that I watch is what's it called? Surgery's Gone Bad or something like that. Surgery's Gone Wild. Who knows? I'm making up the title at this point. But they showed botched the surgeries. I also saw a good friend of mine. She now got plastic surgery. I don't have the heart to tell her, you look like a plastic doll. Your face does not look natural. It looks weird to me. And of course, one of the most famous cases, Versace, if you ever saw her face, she was beautiful when she was young. Why in heaven's name did she do that to herself? Michael Jackson too. I love Michael Jackson. Loved his music, right? Remember when, because the album Off the Wall, he was a good looking young man. And then my Thriller came along, like, what are you doing? What's going on? And it's because why? Because a lot of it is body dysmorphic syndrome. And let's look at that word, dysmorphism. You were wondering where that was going. Me too sometimes. Ism, we already know. This, of course, is the prefix. Morph is the root. Ism is the suffix. Let me put this a little higher. I believe he's a victim of this psychologically. And many people who get unwanted, not unwanted, what's the word I'm looking for? Elective elective surgeries that don't really improve your health and actually risk your health. This means abnormal. Abnormal actually means ab, which is away from the norm. So pertaining to away from the norm is the rule. So what's the rule? If you have dark skin, you shouldn't be bleaching it because you need that melanin in your skin to protect you from UV radiation. Because you need the nostrils in your nose. Why would you want to make them smaller? You want to be able to breathe. Morph means shape. Ism means process of. So process of goes abnormal or painful shape. So to these people, when they look at themselves in the mirror, they're like, I'm ugly. Michael Jackson on several interviews used to say how he used to quote his father a lot on how, that we already know that Joe was already physically, but he was also emotionally abusive to his kids. And was saying how he used to call himself ugly and he had an ugly nose. And like I said, he was a good looking man, but dysmorphism. I'm also a gym rat. You can't tell from my 50 something dad bod, but I've been in the gym since like I was 12. It's just the culture I grew up in. And also it's my only place where I get to, release some frustrations and daily living. And I see it a lot in the gym. A lot, you see a lot of guys and gals constantly checking themselves in the mirror, and not because of form. They're checking themselves in the mirror like they're trying to look good. And gang, I love the mirrors in the gym. Any of you ever take a good look at yourself in the mirror in the gym and the lighting in the gym? I look awesome. And then I go home and then I look at a normal mirror, which is right next to, oh, please, I don't even want to veer in that general direction, right? But all of us who are, stable mentally, when we all look ourselves in the mirror, even though because we don't look our best, there's a piece of us and our ego that says, hey, I'm looking pretty good. I'm looking all right for me. But the second you start looking at yourself like you're a monster or like you're ugly or deformed, that's body dysmorphism, and that's an issue. I wrote a wonderful paper, in my opinion, wonderful. I wrote a paper about how we got to stop doing this fat is beautiful, and stop using fat shaming as an excuse, and start looking at fat and obesity as a health concern, not as a beauty concern. Myself included. I'm like 50. I'm a good 50. By the way, I should have mentioned that picture here. This is me like 8 years ago. I do not look anything like this anymore. Just imagine this, but like more puffy. That's me now. But of course, I put the good picture in because, hey, there he goes again. Back to body dysmorphism. And you can see here, the rest of the chapter has a lot of wonderful examples, and also that I'll also make available on notes. Okay. So with that being said, it's already 10:42, and I try not to go over 90 minutes. So I'm going to open the floor for questions while I look and take attendance. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait a minute. There's 7 of us with me, -1, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have all of you. So I am now going to stop the recording and open the floor for questions.